Have you ever walked into a store where you had a shopping list of maybe 2, 3 items and suddenly you walked out with maybe 5 or 10?
Never have I ever. I always stick to my shopping list. Everyone does. No, they don't. They don't. And that's all planned on purpose.
The retailer actually hooks you in, not just on your shopping list, but over and above your shopping list too.
Do you think shoppers ever feel tricked when they go into stores?
I think that the consumer sees the snake oil as devious.
Curveball question for you. Come on, don't act like you've never experienced that before. It's so annoying. Retailers are working really closely with their suppliers to analyze the shopper psychology. You walk into the retailer, and of course, at Kitty's eye level is the sugary, chocolatey cereals with
Sweet, delicious goodness.
freaking marshmallows in for breakfast.
So is it manipulation or is it retail theatre?
At the end of the day, people gravitate towards authenticity.
Have you ever walked into a store where you had a shopping list of maybe 2, 3 items and suddenly you walked out with maybe 5 or 10?
Never have I ever. I always stick to my shopping list. Everyone does. No, they don't. They don't. And that's all planned on purpose. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Aisle. Today we're going to be talking about how retailers and sometimes their suppliers work together to get you to buy way more than what was on your shopping list originally.
Well, if you look at it, at the end of the day, the retailer, their main objective is to make sure that they move product. And obviously that's good for the supplier too. So when you look at the retailer's game, they want you to get through your shopping list, A, but also B, they want you to ensure that you actually also purchase a few additional items. And those are often your impulse purchases. And with those, that's where they often make their margin. Generally speaking, your shopping list is going to be all your staple items. And a lot of times, those items on that list are generally considered the traffic generators for a retailer. So the retailer is making little to no margin on them, but they get you into the store. And so it's not about the single item purchase, but instead it's about the total basket. And so that's why it's important that the retailer actually hooks you in, not just on your shopping list, but over and above your shopping list too.
Well, it makes me think of when I go to the shops, and ironically, given what I do, you'd think I get very immersed in shopping experiences. I don't really always enjoy going into store. But I know the rule for me is don't go to the shop while I'm hungry because I always end up buying way more and all kinds of different things that are more convenient and pre-prepared and and then the impulsive side of me just comes out.
Yeah.
And
I think it's no different to when you decide you want to get a little bit healthy and you go to the shop and you end up buying all your healthy foods, and then you get home and you're like, oh, I wish I had a snack right now.
There's so many different angles to it. I mean, you can look at this idea of getting a bigger shopping basket going at a category level, and you can look at it at a store level. So if you look at it at a category level, what you often end up having, at least best practices, is that retailers are working really closely with their top 2, 3, 4 suppliers to analyze the shopper psychology, the insights, the consumer decision tree, and they really get very particular about exactly how should those products be laid out at the shelf level to optimize the experience and to help shoppers to find what they're looking for and hopefully to get them to buy a little bit more or to delve into a more premium product or a product that has more gross profit. On the other end, you've got more of a holistic view of things where you're looking at each category that has a strategic role within the business. Some categories are really not there to turn a profit. Not at all. They're actually just there to bring the feet into the store. And then once the feet are in the store, they're now being exposed to other products that weren't on the list, and then they buy those higher margin items. So it depends how you look at it. I know, like, one of the most simple examples is the most basic products that you might want that's on your list. your bread, your milk, your
Yeah.
basic staples, almost always right at the back of the store. So you have to walk past all the other beautiful merchandise, and you end up throwing a few of those items into your basket or your trolley. Just a
Yeah.
simple one.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of different approaches that the retailer takes to really engage with the shopper.
Do you think shoppers ever feel tricked when they go into stores, or do you think that they're almost shopping on autopilot and then every now and again a little bit of impulse happens?
I think that the consumer sees the snake aisle as devious. I know everybody that I've spoken to, they always complain. They're like, listen, every time I've stuck to my shopping list, I get to snake aisle and I pick up a chocolate or I pick up a sweet or a packet of biltong, whatever that is. And so they see that as deceitful. I think they don't necessarily see everything else that's going on that's a little bit more under the radar.
I think that there are some manipulative practices that do lead to more impulsive buys. I mean, you walk into the store, and it's not one retailer in particular. They're all many of them are doing it.
Yeah.
You walk into the retailer, and of course, at Kitty's eye level is the sugary, chocolatey cereals with
Sweet, delicious goodness.
freaking marshmallows in for breakfast.
Yeah.
And if you're the parent now that says no after the child has already seen it, then you're an ogre.
Yeah.
And what do most parents do?
They cave.
They cave, especially in this day and age. But yeah, I think that's a little problematic. I think it would be nice if retailers could drive the basket, but also look out for what's actually good for them.
At the end of the day, it comes down to the consumer's own free will, and they have to make their choices when they're in the store. And on the one hand, yes, be aware of what's going on the shelf, and on the other hand, become educated. And you must make your choices on what products you do and don't want to buy.
Is there not a long-term trust implication? It's like, okay, help me to find my things. Okay, I want to be able to navigate your store easy. Expose me to new products that I didn't think of before, but don't trick me.
It's a fine balancing act. If you look at it, you say don't trick me, but if you don't offer options, then you become outdated and you're now no longer offering a range and a value add. If you offer these options in a way that seems enticing, it can almost feel like entrapment. If you have an example now where you normally prefer to shop at retailer X, and that's your normal store that you go to locally, and you go on travel, and suddenly now you find yourself at the same store but in a different province or different region, you'd expect to find the same sort of layout, the same flow of products.
Would be nice.
It would be nice. And the problem is when that psychology of how that store is laid out, how the category management is approached is not uniform, you as the shopper get frustrated. And so now it's no longer this thing of, well, the shopper's trying to get you to buy more, because it's actually just disorganized. And so you want to be able to go into that store, find your product, and if you don't, you're going to end up dropping your basket and you're going to go shop somewhere else. And that only needs to happen 2-3 times and you will change retailer brands.
So what you're actually saying is that sometimes it's not so much about building trust per se or trying to get you to buy more, but rather just eliminating the basic things that cause frustration.
Yeah, you want to go for that consistency and that uniformity. And that also is baked in with the psychology of how your consumer shops your store.
And we know getting the consistency and uniformity can be quite a complex challenge when you've got some of the retail chain that's corporately owned, and then you've got some where there's the franchise stores.
100%.
And now you've got to convince those independent store owners to
follow the same blueprint,
join in on the blueprint of the corporate stores. But that becomes a lot easier when the blueprint for the corporate stores is really organized and it makes sense and it's delivering a good experience for shoppers and it's working. Then those independently owned store owners are much more keen to adopt this, but they still need their little bit of wiggle room and flexibility so that they can still, have a 10 or 15% of their range that's very localized. But they want to pick up, so it's the complexity there. How frustrating is it when you go into a store and it feels like the store is very congested, and you've got someone behind you who's got their trolley that's just bumped into your heels? I know that you're passionate about this one.
I don't handle that well, personally. 50% of the time I'll probably leave, because I won't enjoy the shopping
That
experience.
much?
Yeah, I'll rather leave. When the retailers get this right, by taking into account their floor planning, taking into account their high traffic categories versus low traffic categories, and even though it might not necessarily be the correct adjacency, you'd rather shift that out so that your shopper still gets a decent flow through of that aisle and you don't have that heavy congestion. There's nothing more frustrating than you look down one aisle and it's absolutely jam-packed, and you look down the next aisle and it's dead quiet, and it's dead quiet on the other side. Yeah. They should take these categories and they should rather just flip them around. And yes, it technically breaks your flow, but it creates for a better shopping experience, and there are exceptions to the rules. You can't just set down rules for category management and blindly follow them. You have to use some critical thinking when you're applying these.
That is something that always impresses me when you go into a store during peak trading hours. And you can see that the store's it's actually very full. There's a lot of people shopping the floor, but it doesn't feel that busy.
Yeah, it's moving.
That's excellent floor planning.
Yeah,
at its best.
Well, it's not just the congestion, because now, yes, you might have high traffic categories, but now if your flow within your category is wrong, you've got a shopper that's standing in front of it. They're looking for their product. They're up and down. They're not really sure where to find it.
Oh, they're hovering
for too long. So that's where your category flows are important, because your shopper this day and age is a educated shopper. And so they know what they're looking for. And if you're getting your consumer decision tree right, they should be able to find that product in any one of your stores relatively quickly, barring when they're now just browsing, and those are the exceptions.
I love the way you've described it, because it's about pulling the shoppers through the store so that they flow and they don't get jammed up.
Yeah.
But once they get to the category that they're actually looking for, that they can very quickly navigate and choose the product they want, maybe grab an item that's cross-merchandised that complements and creates a better solution, and off they go again.
100%.
And don't block up the shopping experience for the next person behind them that might have been you, and then you end up leaving the store and going spending elsewhere.
Exactly.
So it definitely speaks to some of these players out in the market that they come along and say, well, let's just do the planogramming at the shelf level, or let's just do the floor planning. No. If you really want to get it right, you got to do both in conjunction with one another. And obviously that's easier said than done, but that's where the magic is.
Have you ever walked into a store and you couldn't quite figure out what was off when you were busy shopping? It wasn't the product, it wasn't the layout. So I'll tell you a funny story. I was in a store once, and...
Rhetorical question.
A little bit.
Okay, go for it.
So I was walking to the store and something was feeling off, and I was like, okay. And I actually took a moment to be like, what is throwing me off here? They had old incandescent light bulbs that had a slight flicker. So I was getting this in the distance, just this bit of a flicker that was making me agitated. And then the next thing, as I'm walking with my trolley, the tiles had quite big spaces, so my trolley's going ka-dunk, 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 ka-dunk the whole time. And it was just beyond frustrating. So what retailers also need to think about when it comes to frustrating a shopper is your other peripheral experiences, not just the layout of the category.
Do you want to know what mine is? And you're gonna judge me. You know, when you're riding with the trolley, not riding with the trolley, when you're pushing the trolley along, you can keep that in, it's fine. And then the one wheel in front is going like this the whole time. Come on, don't act like you've never experienced that before. It's so annoying. Like if you pick the wrong trolley, I'm sure that has an impact on the, if you
stick to your shopping list and you get out.
You get out because that one wheel keeps like going like this, and then before I know it, my one eye's twitching. It's traumatic.
So I think we can definitely conclude there. Other factors in your shopping experience is a major important role. You know, you look at lighting, you look at flooring, your trolleys, how clean they are, even the smell of your store. If your store has a nice, there's nothing better than when you walk into a store and you suddenly get that fresh bakery smell. On a Saturday, I get that fresh bakery smell, and I'm just like, oh yes, okay. And then as you get to the bakery, they've got those little tasters. Suddenly now you just relax. And you're like, oh, what's that new product? What's that? Okay. And you just start going.
The smells and sounds and the peripheral items are really important. But do you think the people components also, I think, is just super, super important.
Mm.
I mean, you walk into a store and then you have perhaps a security person in front and they say, "Hi, sir," and they pass you a basket with a
Mm.
smile.
Oh, it's lovely.
Man, what a way to start your experience. You immediately feel welcome.
Yeah.
When you get to the teller in front, friendly and warm, how are you?
Yeah.
And just warm.
Yeah. It really
Whereas
adds to that whole service experience.
Whereas on the opposite end, you have another experience where you walk into the store and you've got that security person that sits in the corner and they're just looking at you like their life. They are just so miserable. And I'm sorry for whatever's causing them misery. I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on in their life, but that vibe rubs off on shoppers. And
Yeah.
then you get to the front of the teller and
They're just abrupt with you.
they're like angry with you for being there.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to come back. I think the people component is also a major part of the experience. You can't just have an excellent product layout at the shelf and floor level with the right products range. There are so many other factors that's there.
So it's another one of those tactics that retailers deploy to secretly influence your shopping behavior.
Or to give you a pleasant, jovial shopping experience and to enhance your life.
Yes, exactly. So is it manipulation or is it retail theatre?
Chase, I'm a glass half full type of person most of the time. And I like to see it as retail theatre for the most part. That's how I like to see it.
So
When
you see the good intentions behind it.
Yeah, I like to see the good intentions behind it, and I like to press towards the good intentions behind it. I like to believe that when people go into a store, they're not just going to to go and buy some products that they need for home. They're going to have an experience, and I see that as it's retail theatre, and that should always be the vision and should always be the goal. But that's my hopeful heart speaking, right? And
I
of course,
appreciate
there are some manipulation tactics that do happen. But let's go for retail theatre. That sounds
It's mutually beneficial.
That just sounds aspirational. It's something that you can get behind.
Another element that I was thinking about now is promotional displays and how that impacts the shopper's behavior. So if you walk into a store and you see, okay, you got your normal layouts versus now you've got this whole gondola end and it's just that one product or 2 or 3 products by one brand. How likely are you to buy that, even if they've got now a big special price and that price is not necessarily that much better than the normal price? I think that also starts to influence the shopper because you've got this almost this little bit of a FOMO or an element of, well, if this is new and popular, I should be buying this. I should be trying it. There's that element.
Well, there is the side of things where if a product has more space on shelf, it will influence sales in a positive way for that specific product. So obviously it gets to a certain end of the extreme where it's no longer going to have an influence. I think they call it space elastic demand, if I'm not mistaken. Not to get too fancy with terminologies, we need to check check that. But if you have a product that has additional space for whatever reason, let's say take your house brand for example. How different is that to it having a nice big portion of eye level space next to the other premium product, and maybe it's priced maybe the same or slightly cheaper, but it's the space apportionment that stands out to the shopper, and then they more likely to buy it.
Yeah,
it's the same principle.
I know that's a tactic that a lot of the retailers deploy, is that they make sure their house brand is sitting against its direct competitor, slightly overfaced, so that way the consumer's like, okay, right, this is a better alternative. And 99% of the time, sure, it is. There's nothing wrong with that. Something on a personal level that I don't necessarily like is the concept of highly dynamic pricing. So particularly with the advent of digital shelf labels, where you see retailers changing their prices at a very rapid level, depending on either how busy it is, how much stock they have, or whatever other factors they take into account. But where those prices are changing, I don't necessarily feel that that's right. But that's just a really just a personal opinion. So there's going to be different views on it. Some people are going to see it as, oh, okay, I got it like a deal. Whereas other people are going to be like, listen, can I not just have my fixed price that I know what that thing's going to cost me without surprises?
But don't you think it's almost as though, I mean, when you experience that, and I think many of us have, you almost get the impression that this retail organization doesn't really care about me, the shopper. They don't care about me, the shopper. They just care about their profits only. You know, and I know another one of the things that I do enjoy, again, on the glass half full side of things, is when they're very open and transparent around how they source their products.
That's coming back to the shopper is becoming an educated shopper, and they want to be enlightened, and they want to know, and they want that transparency, and that transparency builds the trust.
So I think the authentic route of all the little and big things that a retailer can do that expresses and shows a genuine commitment to their shoppers' well-being, that's a good place to be. People like authentic. Something I've seen, I know you've seen it as well, is when a retailer overkills the options on a shopper's need.
The modern consumer is already a busy person. They don't need more decision fatigue and complexity when doing their shopping. They want to be able to do their shopping simply, efficiently, and being able to get one or two new variant options as and when they choose that's available, right place, right time. What's scary is that when you look at retailers' data, 80% of their sales and profit comes from 20% of their SKU listings. That's it. It's the 80-20 rule. It's industry standard. So your 80% of your range is actually just fluff. That's just to keep the feet coming in.
And to not frustrate, because if you don't have one of those items that maybe are a bit more slow moving, frustrate your shopper again.
You drop the basket.
In fact, I think you've seen some things. You've seen some good, you've seen some bad, and you've seen some horrendously ugly stuff
One or two.
Tell us about how the planogram is so essential to making sure that stock replenishment is done properly and we don't lead to these stockouts that are unnecessary or overstocks.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you got to have your planogram data needs to flow through to your replenishment system, so that replenishment system knows what is the base stock of base quantity of stock needed to fill that shelf. And you can do that, as different retailers approach it differently. Some of them say, right, they just want to look at facing. Some of them want to look at capacity. Some of them want to look at minimum display quantity, which is just saying, right, for this product to look good on shelf, you need a minimum of 2 deep or 3 deep, and then that multiplied by a number of facings, that gives you a minimum display quantity. And so when you feed that into your replenishment engine, and then they're using the rate of sale, the live rate of sale to order, that really gives you an efficient approach to making sure that your store has the right amount of stock, not too little, not too much. And what that ends up doing is making sure that when your consumer walks past that shelf, it always looks stocked well, and that it doesn't look like you've got either this empty shelf, or that you've got this shelf that's completely overfaced, overfilled.
So if you've got your planograms that's driving replenishment, but then in store they go and implement something that's completely different to the planogram.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Because now their orders are being placed on something that's not a reality at the shelf level.
Yeah.
It's really important that all of these things flow and are executed properly from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, you got to get the whole chain of events right. When it comes to retailers influencing consumer behavior, there's no single one element that is done. There's a lot of different angles. You've got your flow of your stores, your flow of your categories, your ambient sensors, so in terms of lights, smells, sounds. You've got supplier collaboration in terms of what expertise they bring to the table and how they influence that behavior. You've got your front-facing staff and how they interact with your consumer. There's a lot of different things that are thrown into this mix that really influence how the consumer or the shopper navigates your store and purchases product. Consumers are loyal to brands until they disappear. That's the harsh reality, is that they will continue to buy that product.
They can't find them.
Yeah, once they can't find that product for long enough, they'll move to the next one. They'll buy the next one, or they'll shop somewhere else.
Eventually.
So primarily, yes. Primarily, they are loyal to a brand. But when that brand's no longer visible, then visibility takes the next spot. It's also highly dependent on the category. You know, if I look at, for myself, when I go and buy my coffee, I'm buying the coffee I want to buy. That's the end of the story. If they don't have it, I'll go to the next place. However, if I'm buying long life milk, well, I'm going to buy whichever long life milk is there, and it's all the same to me.
It depends.
But for somebody else, their long life milk, they might be very brand conscious. Everybody's going to have their different categories of products that they're going to behave differently in.
I'm very fussy about my almond milk.
You got your particular brand.
Very specific one. For me, there's no transfer of demand happening there. It depends.
And I guess that's,
but if I can't find it and it's the visibility, there's only two facings. It's a bit frustrating if I'm in a rush. I think what you're saying is that the brand loyalty and the visibility of that brand at store level, they both go hand in hand. I don't think you can fully replace the one with the other. They work together. At the end of the day, people gravitate towards authenticity. So if retailers can demonstrate a genuine commitment to the well-being of their shoppers and them having a good experience where they are enlightened with new options along the journey without feeling manipulated, but rather that it's retail theater, that's where the magic is.
You're exactly right. For any retailer out there that's wanting to up their category management game, come speak to us. We can help you with your assortments, your category flows, adjacencies, ensuring that what we can control, your shopper is going to get a better experience, and then you can do the other part by making sure that the rest of your store is in great shape.
Just don't be surprised when we ask you a bunch of questions and really delve deep into your unique context before we just dive into giving you advice. We like to make sure that the advice that we give is rock solid and can stand the test of time. If you enjoyed this episode, please do send it on to a colleague and hit the subscribe button below.
If you want proper data-driven decisions, come talk to us at .active.com. Until next time, I hope you have a great week. Cheers.